Okay, welcome back to your algebra instructional video. This is for section 1.4a. Now 1.4 has a lot of stuff in it, so we're breaking it up into little bits and pieces just to make sure, because this is the foundation for everything we do for the entire school year. So we want to make sure that we're breaking this down and giving you some time to make sure that you're solid on these skills. And we know that you should have worked on these skills in previous math classes, but a good review just to bring it forward in your brain is always helpful. And again, we really want these skills to be solid. So we're going to start with the two-step equation for right now. And our two-step equations, we're going to do the same process we did in the reminder video for solving one-step equations. And that is, we're going to draw a line to indicate the two sides of our equation. So in my first problem, I'm going to go ahead and I find the equal sign. That's my balance point for my equation. And I draw my line to indicate my two sides. I'm going to look at what side is my variable on. So I'm looking here, my variable is the letter, so there's my t, and I'm going to move everything away from that t. So I've got a 5, and I've got the minus 2, and the 5 is right next to the t, so that's 5 times t, so I've got a multiplication, I've got a subtraction. I'm going to use my inverse operations, and I start my inverse operations with this addition subtraction. So when I'm looking at it, do I have addition, do I have subtraction on that side? And I have the subtraction, I have the minus 2. So to undo that minus 2, I add 2 to both sides. And I show that I'm doing that to both sides to keep everything balanced. I show that the minus 2 and the plus 2 cancel each other out. Minus 2 plus 2 becomes 0. And now all I'm left with here is 5t. And that is equal to, so now here I have negative 32 plus 2. They're different signs, so really I'm subtracting. So I get a 30, and since my bigger number is negative, my answer is negative. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm looking at getting rid of that multiplication or division. So right here, I have 5 right next to the t, which means times. So 5 times t to undo times, I divide. So I divide both sides by 5, always getting rid of what's on the same side as my variable. 5 divided by 5 gives me 1. 1t is the same thing as t. So t is equal to, and now I'm going to complete that division. So now I'm looking at what's negative 30 divided by 5. So 30 divided by 5 gives me 6. I have 1 negative, so the negative does not cancel out, which means my answer is negative. And like I said in a previous video, we like to block off our answers. I like to shade a little to make it pop more. So that way it's really easy to find your answers to see if your answer is correct. And then if it's not, then we look back up at that work and we try and figure out what happened, what went wrong with that. Okay, so now looking at our next problem. Again, we draw our line to indicate our two sides. Let's do a different color here. Let's go to pink. So there's my two sides. And then I'm going to go ahead, where's my variable? Okay, my letter is A. There it is right there. And I'm going to get rid of everything on that side. So I have a 4 and a plus 10. And my rules say, get rid of addition, subtraction first. So on that side, I have plus 10. So I do the opposite, and I minus 10 on both sides. So 10 minus 10 gives me 0. That goes away, which is exactly what we're trying to do. So now I have 4a equals 18 minus 10 is 8. And now I have 4 times a. So to undo that times, I divide. So I divide by 4, divide by 4. That gives rid of that, so now all I have is the a, which again is my whole purpose. Letter by itself, I want to figure out what that unknown value is. 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. We block off our answer, making it really easy to figure out what your answer is, so when we're checking work, we're good to go. So again, that should be a review for you, but again, really good to get that fresh in your mind. We're going to take it a step further. We're going to go ahead and solve an equation. And then we're going to take that and we're going to plug it into something else. So when I'm looking at my equation here, I'm going to draw my line for my two sides. And once I get my answer, I'm plugging it into here. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go back. I want to plug it into here. I want to figure out what a plus 4 is going to be, because that's looking forward into something we're doing later. Once I figure out a value here, how's that going to affect me in a situation over here? So you have to be able to learn to plug things back in. When we talk about plugging things back in, it's really just substitution, and substitution is essential to algebra. Okay, so let's find our variable. There's my a. We're going to go ahead and solve our equation. So I'm looking at, I've got a minus 3 and I have a minus 12. So one of them's actually multiplication and one of them's the subtraction. Now because the negative 3 is right next to the A, that's a multiplication. This minus 12 is at the end. So that's a subtraction. So I'm going to undo the subtraction first. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. So now I have negative 3 times A equals 42. And then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that negative 3. Now remember, they're side by side, so it means multiplication. So to undo that, I have to divide. And when I'm dividing by the exact same number. So I'm dividing by negative 3. So the 3's will cancel and my negatives will cancel. That leaves me behind with my variable A, which is what I want to find. And then I'm going to go ahead and divide 42 by 3. So I'm having a hard time being able to do that. Oh, 42 divided by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quick right here. And that's going to give me 14. Now on this side, because there's one negative, that means my answer is negative. So because I don't have another, if I have two negatives, they cancel each other out. Since I have one, it stays negative. So again, highlighting my answer there. But I'm not quite done. I've got to plug it back in. And you'll find you use this substitution idea a lot in geometry. So I'm going to take that 14, I'm going to plug it in here. So now instead of A, I'm going to plug in negative 14 plus 4. Now there are different signs, so I'm subtracting. 14 minus 4 gives me 10. My bigger number was negative, so my answer is negative. And that's pretty much how we work those things out. So we're going to go ahead and look at the next one. Always good to have lots of examples. Draw our line to indicate our two sides. We're going to take our highlighter, find my variable. Ooh. I'm going to find what I'm plugging into, because the easier I can find things, the better off I am. And now with my variable, I have a 2 and a 4. I start with the addition subtraction. This is plus 4, so to undo that, I minus 4 on both sides. Helps if I'm on pen, not highlighter. So minus 4, minus 4. So 4 minus 4 becomes 0. That cancels out. I still have that 2x. Negative 24, negative 4 becomes negative 28. Now that's 2x, so 2 times x, undo times, I divide. So divide by 2, those cancel, leaving me with x. Negative 28 divided by 2 gives me negative 14. Now I'm plugging that back in here for 3 times x, which coincidentally comes from my last problem. So I'm going to have 3 times negative 14. I like putting parentheses instead of dots because sometimes my dots look like decimals. And this will give us that negative 42. Okay. The next thing we're going to work on is, now that we've talked about two-step equations, we're going to talk about how to set one up from our standard type of story problem. Now, a most popular type of story problem deals with rates. So this is kind of our little cheat sheet for story problems. We take our initial amount or starting value, then we're going to add the rate times the number of items to get a final amount. So let's look at our little problem here. Alex belongs to a music club. In this club, students can buy a student discount card for $19.95. Then this card allows students to download albums for $3.95 each. So for every single album, it only costs them $3.95. So this is a rate, because every album we charge another $3.95. Now after 1 year, Alex has spent $63.40. Write an equation to determine the number of albums. We're going to use A for albums. That's why we always have different letters, because it usually comes from some sort of story problem that Alex downloaded. So we're going to start with our initial amount. So the discount card cost what? We started off with a flat fee for something. So that was $19.95. That's my initial amount. Then I'm going to add in the rate. How much did each album cost? So I added on $3.95 cost for every single album that we buy. And then altogether, that's going to cost us $63.40. And we're going to talk the next time about how do I solve this when it has decimals, and how do we work with the decimals? Okay, so let's look at the next problem. We're going to go ahead and highlight our stuff. I recommend having highlighters highlight information, or having some colored pencils or something to really help find information and make it pop. Make notes to yourself. Okay, Serena paid $16 to become a member at a gym. So that's our initial amount, our flat fee. She then paid a monthly membership fee. Monthly membership fees are always rates. Her total cost for 12 months was $736. Write the equation to determine the amount of money she paid per month. Write the equation. Okay, so her initial amount was $16. We do not know her rate. So I'm going to go ahead and put that C right here for her rate. But we do know that she was a member for 12 months. So this is the number of items. So this is the little flip-flop from last time. And then the total amount she paid was $736. So use this as a guide to help you. We're going to practice a lot of word problems, because the more you can kind of get used to, especially these rate problems, the better off you are for when it comes to SAT, ACT, all sorts of standardized tests. And we'll look at more complicated word problems, but these are the ones that pop up the most. So these are the ones we really want to concentrate on. Okay, have a good day.